Hey guys, thanks for tuning in again. My name is Kanaf. Thank you so much for watching my channel. If you're new here, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, leave this video a thumbs up, and also comment on the videos. What we do here is talk about guitars, talk about music, and all that good stuff. Now, in today's video, we're going to talk about this amazing Ibanez JSM20 guitar, which is the John Scofield model made in Indonesia. At first, I didn't have it planned that I should make a video about this guitar because I requested this guitar specifically from Ibanez Germany so that I can make a video about John Scofield's tone. But then I got this guitar a couple of weeks ago, started playing it, and I haven't stopped playing it every single day. I grab this guitar and I play it, and I'm totally in love with it. So I decided to make a dedicated video as well, showing you all the things that I like about this guitar, what popped up when I first grabbed it and played it, and all that good stuff. So if you're interested in that, stay tuned because we're gonna see what this guitar has to offer. Now, if you're not new to the channel, you know that I really like my Eastman T484. It's a semi-hollow guitar, but it's a smaller size than this. And from the first time that I played that particular guitar, I fell in love with it, and I've been using it ever since. But what happened when I first got this guitar was I plugged it straight into the Vox AC10, which you're also hearing today, and it's just sounded amazing, and it put my Eastman to shame, to be honest. But I'll tell you about that later. So I grabbed the guitar out of the case, which also is a really nice case. I plugged it straight into the Vox AC10, no pedals in between, nothing else. And I just played it, and everything sounded open, everything sounded warm at the same time. And it was this amazing feeling playing this guitar. And as soon as I heard that, I was really worried about my Eastman because I had this issue with my Eastman and the Vox AC10. When I paired that combination up, it seemed like my Eastman pushed the Vox AC10 in a very unpleasant way. So I had the gain at minimum, and it still pushed the amp a lot to some sort of fizz and distortion that I wasn't fond of. What also happened was the sound would get really compressed, and there was this odd frequency on the top end that I didn't like from my Eastman at all, especially with my Vox AC10. I mean, it's a great guitar. I'm not saying it's a bad guitar. It's actually my dream guitar, or it was my dream guitar. I really enjoyed it playing with the small champ here with plugins. I really enjoyed it. But with the Vox AC10, it just didn't work out for me. So I thought that the pickups were the problem. But that's not true. So the one thing I did was I lowered the pickups drastically, and that fixed the issue. So as soon as I lowered them down, they kind of sounded like this guitar, and I was relieved because that is my favorite guitar, and I didn't want to swap pickups out, and I just wanted that guitar to sound like this because this opened my eyes, because I didn't have another semi-hollow guitar to test it against the Eastman, and I thought, oh, maybe that's how it's supposed to sound. So one thing this guitar did for me is it opened my eyes to how I would like my semi-hollow guitars to sound like, and it's exactly this, exactly how this came out of the box, out of the factory. But then I noticed something else which shocked me a little bit, was the playability of this instrument. So for some reason, it felt really comfortable to play, even way more comfortable than my Eastman. So I started to think about that, to investigate what's going on. Why is this guitar easier to play for me? Why is it not stressing my left hand a lot? And it turns out that the nut width on this guitar is narrower than my Eastman, which obviously I seem to prefer better because this feels much better than my Eastman when it comes to the nut width. So I can play this guitar all day and I won't have any pain on my left arm. But again, I didn't have anything to compare my Eastman to, and I thought, well, that's what I like, even though it hurts a little bit. The third thing that happened was I put a strap on this guitar, and it just feels really nice. It's there where it's supposed to be. And with the Eastman, I don't have that experience, unfortunately. So I'm really shocked that this guitar is basically better than my Eastman. Don't get me wrong, Ibanez makes incredible instruments, and all the Ibanez guitars that I've had on the channel, they never disappoint. But there's this lore with Eastman guitars. They're handcrafted, although handcrafted in China. They're really good, and they are really good. But this guitar just fits me way better. So the size of the body, I thought that the 339 or the Eastman T484 would feel more comfortable, but putting a strap on this guitar and actually sitting or standing up feels amazing. It's really balanced. As you can see, it's on my strap right now, and it just stays where it needs to stay. And I'm really, really comfortable with this one. So now you're wondering, well, I should probably sell the Eastman and keep this. Well, one thing I know is I'm going to keep this. I cannot let go of this guitar. But the Eastman is also, it's different. It's not the same instrument. It's completely different, with the body shape, with the sound that it has, with the playability that it has. But for some reason, this one speaks to me more. It feels way more comfortable. Maybe for you, if you like wider nut widths, the Eastman would be better. But for me, this one feels more comfortable. And as I said, the ergonomics of this guitar, they just fit me perfectly. I'm really undecided when it comes to that. But as you can tell, this instrument did a lot of things for me as soon as I took it out of the box. In fact, all I've done is change the strings from 10s to 11s, and I lowered the action a tiny bit, and the setup hasn't moved at all. It just plays perfectly. It resonates, it sounds amazing, and it's been the guitar that I've played the most recently. And also, I kind of feel like I have a personal connection with this guitar. There's two stories that I want to tell you. The first one being my first ever proper jazz gig that I went to and saw was John Scofield a couple of months ago here in Innsbruck, Austria. I just came home from work, and I saw an Instagram post from John, and I opened up his website just to check if he's touring, because I know he's touring all the time. And I saw that he's coming to Innsbruck in like a week, and it was 20 minutes of walking distance from my apartment. So I booked 2 tickets for me and my girlfriend. We went and saw him, and it was one of the best experiences I've ever experienced in my life. The sounds that he was getting, the vibe that he was setting, it was just amazing. And he's an amazing player. So, I mean, if you don't know John Scofield, you're probably living under a rock. So get out of the rock and listen to Scofield. So yeah, that was my first ever proper jazz gig that I went and saw. And it left a good impression on me. So when I see this guitar and I keep it this high on the strap, it kind of reminds me of John Scofield and his legendary status and his legendary contribution to music. So that's a connection that I have with this guitar. Another connection that goes deep into my beginnings as a guitar player. It's a long story, but I'll keep it short. So I had this friend that was also a guitar player. What's like, I don't know, 8 years ago maybe. So I started playing probably 11 years ago, and 3 years after I started, I got an electric guitar. It was this Epiphone SG Special. I had to travel 3 hours to the capital of Macedonia to get it. And this friend of mine who also played guitar, he was about a year or two younger than me. We would jam occasionally. And after a couple of weeks, when I got my SG, he gives me a call and he's like, "Hey, I got this new guitar that my father bought me. So do you want to check it out?" And I went to this Palace of Culture, we call it. That's where we had rehearsal rooms and all that jazz. So I went there, and he just takes this guitar out of the case, and it was an Ibanez JSM20, I think, or an JSM93. It wasn't a top of the line guitar, but it still had the binding. It had the inlays on it, and that guitar was owned by a good musician in Albania. So that means the guitar was set up really nicely. It was well maintained. Everything was just working perfectly on that guitar. And I've never been an envious person, so I never cared about vehicles or instruments or anything like that. So whatever I had, I really liked what I had, and I never batted an eye on someone having something better than me. But that guitar got me. When I saw that guitar, I was like, oh man, I'm so envious of you. I really want this guitar. And it just played amazingly. It had this really balanced tone, which now that I think about it, all the Ibanez's that I've played have this balanced tone between the neck and the bridge pickup. So that was probably the first time that I was envious of someone else owning a better instrument than me. And it was that Ibanez AS73. So probably an inner child in me is saying, keep this guitar because you were envious that time. So keep it and have fun with it. Enough with the storytelling. Let's talk about this guitar specifically. So the headstock is a classic design. It's a vintage design from Ibanez. You would used to see this in the vintage AS models, Art Star models that John Scofield would play actually, and he decided to use this headstock on all of his signature guitars. You got the signature from John Scofield right here. It's very subtle and it looks really nice. The tuners are Ibanez branded tuners and they work amazingly. There's probably the smoothest tuners I've ever had on a guitar, and you know, I've tried a lot of high-end guitars. I have a couple of really nice boutique guitars right here, but these tuners feel really smooth to turn, and if you string your guitar properly and if the nut is cut, it keeps the guitar in tune amazingly. The nut is cut perfectly, no complaints there whatsoever. The action on the first fret is spot on. There's no buzzing going on, and it's really easy to play chords down the neck right here. The fretboard is an ebony fretboard with these really nice looking inlays. The frets are medium jumbo frets, and what they get is the Art Star treatment. So the fret ends and the fret polish itself have this Art Star treatment that they do in the Indonesian factory, just the same way that they would do it in the Japanese factory, which offers a lot of value in my opinion, because when you grab a guitar, you play the frets, you play the neck, and if everything works here, then everything else is subjective. Pickups are subjective, tone woods are subjective, but if a guitar feels nice, you're gonna find a use for that guitar. The neck itself is a C-shaped neck. It's not really thin, but it's not really thick either. It's just right in the middle, and it kind of helps me play better because of my injured pinky. This neck seems to work perfectly for that. The material is, it's a 3-piece neck, maple, Nyato maple, and I think this construction makes the neck really stable because I've never had any issues with this. We had this weird change in the climate here in Austria where it went to really cold from like almost spring feeling weather. So it never changed. I've never had any issues with it. I've had it for the past 3 to 4 weeks now, I think. It's been a month, and I've never had any issues with it. The finish on the neck is also satin, so there's no gloss on this finish, and it feels really nice gliding your hand up and down the neck. The body on this guitar is also satin finish, so there's no gloss going on here, and I think that's the reason why it's a bit more affordable than the JSM10, which is a sunburst with a gloss finish. But I really enjoy the looks of this one. The binding is this orangey binding, which I think works really nice with the gold hardware and this finish for this particular guitar. I don't think there's any other guitars in the market that would have this kind of binding, this color of binding at least, but for this one it just works. Bridge and tailpiece are Ibanez proprietary made, and I think you find the same ones in the Japanese models, which is incredible. There's a lot of space that you can move the saddles forward and backwards so you can get proper intonation. And yeah, four knobs, classic design. You have 2 volumes, 2 tones. You have a 3-way switch, and you have this tri-sound switch, which only works for the neck position. So when it's down, it's a full humbucker. In the middle, I think it's a single coil, so it's a coil split. And then you have the out of phase position. So I'm not quite sure if the first position is out of phase or the middle one, but for me, I just use the humbucker and I'm good to go. Nonetheless, it's really useful to have this switch because if you're in a live situation and you feel like you're taking a lot of space from the band, you can just flip it up and your sound becomes more narrow, becomes more dynamic, and I find that to be very useful. The top, back, and sides are made out of laminated maple. We had that AS113 on the channel a couple of months ago. It's basically the same guitar, but instead of having a maple top, it had a spruce top, which made it sound a bit more resonant, a bit more high end, But my personal preference, it's still this one, the maple construction, because I think it gives it this warmer tone that I really like. And again, it's minute. It's not that you can tell the difference a lot, especially if you're going through a big pedal board and a modeling amp or even a tube amp with some compression on it. You're not gonna hear the difference that much, but I like the response of this guitar better. Last but not least, the legendary Super 58 pickups. Now, I've read a lot of forums, I've read a lot about these pickups, and it seems like these are the real deal. So these are the same pickups, maybe not manufactured in the same factory as the made in Japan ones, but these are the same construction and the same spec of the Super 58 pickups. Now, don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% sure, but what I can tell you is that these sound amazing. They sound that good that they made me contemplate my Eastman, which it's still one of my favorite guitars, but this guitar just opened my eyes, and I think these pickups are really special. If you're looking for that really rocky sound, you can get it, but don't expect an ES335 guitar out of this one. It's much more warmer, much more mellower sounding, and it will work really well in a jazz context and even a blues context, rock and roll as well. But for mellower stuff like neo soul and jazz, I think this guitar shines. Now that was a lot of talking. All right, so let's hear the guitar a little bit. I'm not gonna play a lot. I'm not gonna do a lot of playing samples here because, as I said, I'm going to do a John Scofield inspired video with this guitar and the Vox AC10, which is exactly the same setup that I have today. So it's the guitar plugged straight into my pedal board. From my pedal board, we go to something very special, which is the Surfy Bear. I don't know if you can see it on camera. I think you can. The Surfy Bear Classic Reverb Unit. It's an actual spring reverb, and it's amazing. It has changed my life. I have everything routed here that goes through that first and then to another amp. It's amazing. I'm gonna do a video about it really soon. Stay tuned for that and buy one. I can just tell you to buy one right now and you're gonna have fun with it. I'm also recording the Vox AC10 with my Zoom H6, which is a lifesaver. I actually have the dual mic, the stereo mic that it comes with, pointed straight to the amp, and I'm recording it using that. I'm gonna do some post-processing with some compression and a tiny bit of room reverb so I can catch what I hear in my room right here. So with that out of the way, let's see what this guitar can do. As I said, I'm not gonna play a lot, but I'll give you a taste of it, and here's how it sounds like. Now that was the neck pickup. I had the volume at around 8 and the tone at 6. So this guitar also works really well with just changing the settings on your guitar. It responds really well to that, and it also responds really well to your touch depending on what the kind of pick you use, how much you hit the guitar, and it's very, very sensitive to all those things. Now let's try what the tri-sound switch does. I have the same settings here as you heard before. At the moment it's down, it's humbucker position. Middle, which is coil split, sounds like this. And then up, which is out of phase, sounds something like this. It can do funk too. Now let's try the bridge pickup with some overdrive coming from the blue, the Volta Blue, which is one of my favorite pedals of all time. In fact, it was on all the time, but I didn't have the guitar turned up to 10, so it had the preamp from the blue, but it wasn't completely overdriven. So let's try the bridge pickup on 10 with the blue, driving the amp a little bit, and that sounds like this. Sounds really nice with distortion as well, and John Scofield uses these guitars with distortion. But what I like the most about this guitar is that it responds really well to modulation effects. So these pickups in conjunction with a modulation effect, which for me at least, this modulation effect that I use is a secret weapon, and if you want me to spoil it for you, I will make a video about it. It's in the HX Stomp XL. Probably no one uses this effect, and I think it's one of the best effects in the HX Stomp, and I would buy the entire unit only to have this modulation effect. Just listen to it if you want to. If you like it, I will make a video about it. But just let's have the neck pickup, humbucker position, tone rolled down a little bit, also volume rolled down a little bit, and add that modulation effect. So listen to this one. I can do that every day, and I can just explore sounds, explore notes and tones that I've never explored before, thanks to this guitar and what it can do for me. Now this was probably a longer video than I expected, but if you enjoyed it, please make sure to like this video, leave a comment, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel because it really helps me a lot. If you want to listen to more of my playing, if you want more music content, please let me know. And also, if you want more gear reviews, just let me know what kind of videos you want to watch, and I would definitely be happy to make all of them for you. So that's going to be it for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you like this guitar as much as I do. And if you do, go try them out in a local shop. That's the best advice I can give you, is if you want to check out a guitar, check if your local shop has it so you can have it in your hands and play it, because small things make a difference. The nut width makes a difference. The way the pickups sound make a difference. Everything on a guitar makes a difference because it's almost technically a living being, because it moves, it does all these weird kind of things, and that's why we love them. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching. I hope I catch you with the next video, and until then, have a good one and stay safe. Bye bye.